Welcome to this week's edition of the Pete Mezzetti Show. I'm Pete Mezzetti. My guest this evening is Brenda Bergeron, who is the Deputy Commissioner for Homeland Security for the state of Connecticut. Deputy Commissioner Bergeron, welcome. How are you?
Thank you so much. Glad to be here.
Thanks for coming down. Thanks for coming down in person. Last time we did this, I believe we did this through Zoom.
Yes, we did.
And it was okay.
During COVID.
But it was okay, but it wasn't a lot of fun.
No, not the same way.
So nice to finally meet you.
Thank you. Same here.
So tell us a little bit about yourself and how long you've been Deputy Commissioner.
So I've been Deputy Commissioner of the Division of Emergency Management and Homeland Security for almost 2 years, starting in December of 21. And, do I mean 21? Yes. And before that, I was the Division's Attorney in Emergency Management and Homeland Security since 2005. So I've had a lot of time with the Division. Not as much time as the Deputy Commissioner, but it's really an exciting job and a great opportunity to be involved in public interest work, so I really enjoy it.
Now, who's the Commissioner?
Our Commissioner is James Ravella.
Okay.
He's the Commissioner of the larger agency, which is the Department of Emergency Services and Public Protection. And there are two Deputy Commissioners. One is the Colonel of the State Police, and the other is me as the Deputy Commissioner of the Division of Emergency Management and Homeland Security.
All right, easy question. What do you guys do?
Oh, that's a great question.
Or what don't you do?
Well, that's true. So the division has really divided into two different areas.
Okay.
One, which we are not going to be talking about as much today, is Homeland Security. So we have a Connecticut Intelligence Center, which is the state's intelligence fusion center, working with municipalities, law enforcement agencies, federal agencies, and private sector like the utilities and others, just sharing information on potential trends in criminal activity, terrorism, things like that. That's one side. That's the Homeland Security side.
Okay.
And I'm one of the Deputy Homeland Security Advisors to the Governor. The Homeland Security Advisor himself is Commissioner Ravella. The side that we're going to talk about a little bit today is the emergency management side. And we have a State Emergency Management Director, Bill Turner, who answers to me. And then we have a bunch of different divisions under the emergency management umbrella, including radiological emergency preparedness. So we work closely with Millstone and the Department of Energy and Environmental Protection on preparedness in what's called the EPZ zone, which is the emergency planning and preparedness zone around Millstone. Okay. We have a recovery unit, and we have resilience and mitigation. We have a grants unit. We do strategic planning. We do operational planning. We run the State Emergency Operations Center during disasters, and we work very, very closely with our partners in the municipalities. So we have 5 regional emergency planning teams and 5 regional coordinators who go out and work with emergency management directors across the state to address things at the local and state level. So it's very, very exciting.
Wow, very busy.
Yes, very busy.
And I'm sure with what's going on, you guys get even busier.
Yes, well, so it's coming to be our version of hurricane season. So usually in Connecticut, although hurricane season starts a couple of months earlier, right. This year, and generally speaking, it tends to be sometime from the middle of September until really the beginning of November. And for those of you who have been around for a while, you know that we had a series of storms in the 2011-2012 range that were right around either the end of September or the end of October. That tends to be our time frame. Right.
I remember the last tropical storm we had. My mom was a tax collector at the time. Ooh. So she went to, her and one of her colleagues were going to a conference. They left like 2 days or couple days early because they knew the storm was coming. Yeah. Of course, my dad and I are home. It's like, okay, now what? Yeah. It's like, all right. Yep. And of course, the generator at the time was gas, so we had to go out and find gas and find that. And then, sure enough, the next storm, we got rid of the gas generator. We had an on-demand. So it's like, my dad was like the insurance policy, so the power's never going to go out ever
that's
again.
wonderful. Yep,
Right,
my dad ended up getting a generator. Oh, I shouldn't use the name,
Yes,
but yes, got
yeah.
a generator that
Yes.
was more on demand.
Uh-huh.
So that's exactly right. So that's one of the things that's really important is to be prepared. So
Right.
we had historic rainfall in July. The National Hurricane Center sets up predictions on how many forecasted storms, named storms they think we're going to have.
Yep.
And they increased their numbers. In April, it was 13. In June, it was 15. And as of July, it was 18. So they're seeing, with the warming of the waters in the southern part of the Atlantic, that we're going to be seeing, potentially some action. We know right now we have the 9th named storm,
Right.
which is Idalia. I had to
Yes.
look it up.
Yeah.
But there's 2 at the same time. One is Franklin and the other is Idalia that are both stirring around. They're not, right now there's no apparent threat to New England.
Right.
But there's certainly an intensification of the Idalia storm in the western part of Florida. So people are getting ready there. You never know.
No.
And it's really important to be prepared. So we do hurricane preparedness work.
Okay.
We have exercises, we do training. We train folks that are going to be at the State Emergency Operations Center, state agencies. We work very closely with our National Guard, who's a wonderful resource.
Okay.
We work with United Way 211. We work with the Red Cross, Salvation Army, all our partners, to be ready in case we need to go to the State Emergency Operations Center. Municipalities practice opening up their local emergency operations center with their emergency management director and their team of government officials, local officials who will be ready to respond and manage the emergency at the local level. And our regional coordinators are the ones that if there's an issue in a town, they contact the regional coordinator who tries to find if there's resources within the regional area. If not, they'll contact the State Emergency Operations Center and we'll work to get resources to that particular municipality. So it's really we try to have it be a well-oiled machine. Communication is key, and so we work on that all the time.
So I'm sure you guys are busy during like winter storms.
Yes, we have.
Like when the governor's on TV. And
Yes, telling everybody, stay off the road.
Stay home.
Yes, we've had some storms where it was actually life-threatening to be out in the middle of the night. The plows were doing everything they could, but they just could not keep up with the amount of snow. We've actually, since then, the Department of Transportation has actually gotten these larger snow plows that are basically in the Buffalo area and areas like that that can really help to clear the roads as quickly as possible. But there are times when you need to stay off the road, you need to be prepared at home. And we actually have an app called CT Prepares,
Okay.
which allows folks to take a look at what you need to do to be ready. The feds have something called ready.gov.
Yes.
And we have the CT Prepares app. I just reloaded it on my phone yesterday, and it's very easy to do. You just go to ct.gov/DEMHS, DEMHS, and there's a way to get on the app. Or you can even just go write Google CT Prepares and it comes up. But it really does provide you with a lot of information.
God.
Well, I was going to say that, so the key thing is to think in advance about how you're going to communicate with your family if there's an emergency. Do you have a little go kit, maybe the medications you might need or identification, things like that you have with you, especially if you see, to a certain extent, usually with hurricanes and things like that, we have some notice, so you need to kind of be prepared, have a plan about what your family's going to do, and have that kit ready to go if you think you might have to leave where you are.
Now, especially with being so close to the water and
Right.
being so close to the shoreline, I'm sure there's an even better chance of having a preparedness kit, because once you're on the water, and especially where we're located in other parts of the state where they're right on the water, people own houses on the water, and sure,
Yes, that's
they get hit pretty hard if it
You're
rains.
exactly right. And I think there's a federal project or program called Know Your Zone.
Okay.
So you can actually go online and look to see whether or not you're in a flood area. And the Know Your Zone link is also on our ct.gov/Demis website location, but you can even just, your town hall will know, or other people will know as well. Each town has a local emergency management director, and that person is tied into emergency management at the state level.
Okay.
We work with everybody every single day, so they're always ready to be prepared in case of an emergency.
Now tell us a little bit more about the new app that just came out about being prepared for.
The CT Prepares app.
Yes.
So what that has is some basic information like what you might want to do to put into a kit and things like that. It has some other categories of things that you can take a look at. It may have things about weatherproofing your home, or have links to other federal programs that you can take a look at. And we, at the division, we do not only the preparedness piece, but if there's a disaster, then we're the folks that work with the Federal Emergency Management Agency to arrange to see if we have enough damage to qualify for a FEMA grant. Mm-hmm. So some of that information is on the website as well. Our general website is just filled with information like that.
Now, just typically what types of things should be in a emergency preparedness kit? Obviously, medication, batteries.
Extra eyeglasses, if you have, an extra pair of glasses. However you're going to be communicating, maybe you have a communication list of who you would call.
Right.
Extra, like you said, batteries. One of the things that towns have been doing over the last few years, most people in Connecticut, for the most part, don't necessarily need an overnight shelter. They like to stay in their own home, but they need a place to go to warm up, mm-hmm. or they need a place to get a shower or to charge their electrical equipment. So if you're a person that uses an electronic piece of equipment, make sure you have whatever generator or battery you need to keep that going for you, whether it's a CPAP machine or something else. Right. Just make sure everything's up to date, and you have. And like the easy thing is to make sure you have flashlights with batteries and things like that if you're going to stay home. But many communities now will open a warming shelter and a charging shelter center during the day that people can go warm up, take a shower, charge up their equipment, and be ready to go, be able to go back home that evening.
Would you mind sticking around for another segment?
I'd love to.
All right, we'll be right back.
Thank you.
As an academic medical center, it's our duty and our opportunity to work with new technologies.
We're always trying to think about what are the new ways we could apply this technology to better serve our patients.
We have formed unique collaborations with institutions such as Jackson Labs.
Doing genetic analysis of most tumors that we're removing currently, and this allows us to personalize the treatment to each individual.
We're seeing benefits in patients who otherwise would have had no hope.
Here at UConn, we are an academic medical center. We are involved in cutting-edge research to find the best possible treatments for women.
Benefits of women's health care at UConn is that we have very robust and diverse care for women during all phases of life.
That includes everyone, irrespective of their economic status, of their health status. We are very inclusive. We believe in taking care of each person as a person. There's nothing like kindness in taking care of patients.
Welcome back to this week's edition of the Pete Mezzetti Show. I'm Pete Mezzetti, sitting here with Deputy Commissioner Brenda Bergeron. Deputy Commissioner, welcome back.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so we're going back to school.
Yes, we are.
What can you tell us?
Well, you pointed out before, what is it we don't do?
Yes.
And one of the things we do, in addition to the things I mentioned before, mm-hmm. is we're quite engaged in school security and safety planning and preparedness and grants, actually. Okay. So we do a number of different things. After the Sandy Hook tragedy, the state legislature passed Public Act 13-3, which had a number of different aspects to it. One of the things it did was required us to do school security and safety plan standards. So every year we review those standards with a working group that includes municipal representatives, state agency representatives, and we look to make sure that those standards are up to date. We make sure that we include whatever the legislature may have done in the last year in those standards, so we make sure that everybody's aware of it. We do the plan template, And we assist municipalities and school districts to do their school planning, their school safety and security planning. But that's only one piece of it.
Okay.
We also work very closely with, over the last few years with Sandy Hook Promise, we had a Department of Justice grant, and they went out and did training in school districts across the state, and I wanted to kind of tout them a little bit and really praise them for what they did. We just had this morning at the agency, we had a sort of wrap up of everything they had done, because the grant is coming to an end, and I wanted to share that with people.
Sure.
Because it's impressive, and I find it's very positive. The third thing I'll talk about is the safety grants, which are the physical security things. But this is working with school children and teachers and others on how to sort of help to change or enhance the quality of life of the students in the school from a safety perspective. So they had 3 different programs that they ran in the state. The first is called Start With Hello, and it was designed to work with school kids, to think about if you see a person, a fellow student, who's not necessarily engaged with everybody for whatever reason, reach out to them, talk to them, and they have a whole program built on that. They actually gave trainings at 140 schools. They trained almost 69,000 students during the time that they were there. And I'm so excited about that, because that's the kind of heart-to-heart safety that you can create just by creating an atmosphere of welcome. The second one they did was called Say Something, which was, if you see a situation that seems dangerous or you're aware of maybe something that's going on. They did 69 trainings in 124 schools, and they trained almost 56,000 students, which is just remarkable. And then for adults, not for the students, they did Signs of Suicide. And they worked with teachers and other professionals at schools. They actually taught almost 500 adults in 142 schools, going over the training with regard to signs of suicide. And then perhaps my favorite thing that they did was part of if you wanted to have them come to your school to do training, you had to set up what they called a Save Promise Club. And what it is it's bringing together student-led activities, working to engage other students in this sort of atmosphere of safety and positivity. And they actually have 141 registered clubs in the state of Connecticut with 2,500 student leaders. And they've actually won some awards at the national level. So that kind of very positive view of school safety, I find, and I think everybody would find as a very positive way to view helping to keep schools safe. On a more physical aspect, less behavioral and more physical, we, since 2013, we have been operating a school security grant in my division, and we have 6 rounds of funding. In the beginning, it was just for public schools, but now a percentage of it is set aside for private schools as well. And we're in the process of round 6, and we're looking at about $88 million in state grant money being used to help enhance safety in schools. And it's been a very successful program. There are specifics on what the money can be used for. So it may be things like bollards to protect the front of a building, or safety glass, or things like that. It's all physical enhancements to the security of the school. But it's been a very successful program. We've had well over 1,700 projects funded since the beginning, and we are just starting the most current round 6. We've had it more or less every other year. So there was a 2021 round, and now there's a 2023 round, both public schools and a percentage of private schools. But we also have what's called a multimedia grant, which is a grant also within the school safety realm, to have schools be able to connect directly with their law enforcement agency, so that they can have, the time frame is much quicker. And so that's part of that whole 88 million, and we've been working very closely with school districts on that as well.
You guys are a very busy organization.
We are. We have our hands in many things, but our role is more to coordinate and collaborate. You know, we recognize the subject matter experts in areas, so the school folks, there's a group at Western Connecticut State University that's been doing a great deal of work over the past couple of years on behavioral threat assessments and things like that. So we always try to work as a team. Our job is to bring people together and bring the subject matter experts together to try to create a better plan, or you know, listen to what people need and try to help them out. It's very busy, particularly when we're in storm season, because you never know. But it's also very, very rewarding.
Yeah. Now with the school year about to start here in the state of Connecticut, what can we tell people?
I think that from a safety perspective,
Yeah.
I think we have, school districts are really conscious of that. I think that there's been some discussion about fire drills and crisis response drills. I know that I'm old enough to remember when we would have drills periodically related to the potential of nuclear war type things. And I think that the more that we can work together to understand the purpose of the drills, not to frighten people, not to make people uncomfortable, but to make them feel very comfortable at a time when it might be needed. So practicing, we're used to fire drills, and we do have some crisis response drills now. And the legislature passed some legislation this year that's going to have us look at the effect of those drills and make sure that they're helping people feel more comfortable and more ready to respond to an emergency should there be one.
Wow. Now, as far as information that people can find on the website, what can they find on?
So if they go to ct.gov/Demis,
Yeah.
there's a school security section, and you can actually, in preparing for our talk today, I took a look to make sure things were on there, and there's a number of different grants that we administer. School security is one of them.
Okay.
We also administer a state nonprofit security grant, so that's really aimed at whether it's a local community center or a house of worship or another nonprofit organization. They can also apply for security, physical security funding from the state of Connecticut. So that information is on there as well. And we also have federal grants that we do, so there's a lot of information there. But we also have many of the templates that I talk about. Planning templates are on there. And again, we are always available to have a conversation if somebody wants to talk about what we do or how we do it. It is enveloping, to say the least.
Yeah. Now, as far as let's talk about the presentation that you guys did today with, I believe it was these people from Sandy Hook.
Sandy Hook Promise,
Yeah.
yes.
Let's talk about that.
So they came in, we had gotten a Department of Justice grant for them to assist with school safety. And obviously they are well prepared to do it. And so it was a different type of grant. It was something that they were not as familiar with and we weren't as familiar with. It was through the Department of Justice. And it really was, as I say, it was very, very successful. So they were coming in today to have a conversation about what they had accomplished, show us some of the anecdotal stories of what students had learned through the process, share their statistics with us, and also to a certain extent we got to see each other face to face, because for a number of years now we've been dealing on Teams but not necessarily or Zoom without being face to face. So that was a really rewarding opportunity. And we have a training and exercise unit, so we have folks that will go out and train communities on cyber security, on domestic violent extremism, sort of keeping an eye on that sort of thing, emergency preparedness, school preparedness. So we are out in the community quite a lot, and it's nice to see our partners like Sandy Hook Promise be able to come in and show us what they've done over the last few years.
Now, you said you guys deal with different types of grants. Is there can you apply for the same grant every year, or is there a waiting period between?
So that's a good question. With the schools, they identify the school grant there's a statutory requirement for how we determine who gets the grant money. But we do look to see if a school's never gotten grant money before, then they might be at the top of the list. But we've had this grant program for so long now that I think we are envisioning that we may have schools whose whatever, if they had camera equipment or something else may have worn out, since 2013, and they may be back in again to try to do it. So you can always apply, but we do have a somewhat of a priority system based on the need that's demonstrated by the particular school. Same with the houses of worship. They provide a gap analysis of what they're seeing, what their threats are, and if it's a particular institution with heightened threats, they may rise to the top of the list, unfortunately. The other grant that we're doing this year, which is very different, it's an online abuse prevention grant. Okay. And its goal is to kind of stop some of the hateful online things that have been going on. And we've had some really clever. It tends to be nonprofit groups. Could be a school, could be a library that put in for it. And they've had some really creative ideas, whether it's murals that would be at a library, or in one case it's helping students do a play, come up with a play. With those kind of grant programs that are very broad, you never know exactly what you're going to get, and the things that people came up with were very, very imaginative. So we're excited about that one. That one's a little different.
Before we say goodnight, website one more time.
So the website is ct.gov/DEMHS, which is DEMHS.
Deputy Commissioner Bergeron, thanks for some time. Hopefully we'll see you again soon.
Absolutely. Nice to be here. Thank you.
Thanks for coming down. On behalf of Deputy Commissioner Bergeron, I'm Pete Mezzetti. Thanks, good night. We'll see you next time.